Good day buddies. We got some of this queen ants 2 months ago from our hunting trip. Living on this test tubes with dirt, as this is the best way of raising them. This are one of those cryptic ant species, who spend most of their lives living underground, in soil, rotten logs, and leaf litters. The two colonies have some workers now, and for today's video, we will be making and move them to an ant paradise, a self-feeding ecosystem which will not only serve as their home, but will also provide the best food for this ant species. Before we start, allow me to recognize our buddies, Jeffrey Miles and Sean. Thank you so much for being the first ever members of the channel. Help will get more members soon, as the funds from memberships will be saved and used to what we're gonna call a members ant terrarium. And most things that will happen in the terrarium will be decided by the members. If ever you're interested in supporting the channel and the project, feel free to check the link on the pinned comment. Let me also say welcome back buddies. And for those new to the channel, you're also welcome to D Colony. For this build, we're using that curved tank over there, which has this dimensions. We'll be using lots of this skull rocks, so we're installing egg crates at the bottom for additional support to the base glass flooring. We'll be making a waterfalls on this terrarium, and this mini fish tank will serve as the catch basin, which also ends up surprising us with an unexpected aquatic life. I want the falls a little bit on the left, so we're sizing it up like this on the egg crate. And I used the rocks to form the terrain for the waterfalls. We just fill the gaps between the rocks using moist tissue paper. Then bond them all together using super glue. I didn't made the falls body as one piece, instead made it into two stackable parts, which is this base, and this top. This way we can dismantle it easier in the future, just in case we need to. We also glued rocks together on this part, creating canals in between them to direct the water flow of the falls. After that, I mixed a white and yellow tile grout, trying to match the color of the yellowish rocks, as we're gonna use it to fill the gaps on the canals. Anyway, we'll be using a pump to power the falls, so I also decided to make a DIY filter for the body of water. Just using this tiny acrylic container. We just drilled a hole in it, and installed an acrylic pipe for the outflow. Fixed it on place using acrylic cement. Then just added filter media. I didn't add a layer of activated carbon, as this sponge is said to have a layer of that. We just need to cut it in size to fit. And the DIY filter is done. After letting everything dry for a day, I proceed and apply waterproofing to the canals. This way we'll prevent flooding the terrarium with unwanted leaks. We don't want the filter to be seen as much as possible, so we'll try covering it from view with rocks. We're now ready to set everything inside the tank. We'll set activated carbon around as the first layer for filtration, except in the front of the fish tank, as we'll only having a thin layer of substrate there, which will allow us to have a full view of the aquatic world later. A layer of substrate next. Then some rocks, covering most of it with substrate again. Then another rocks on top of the previous ones to construct a rock nest, which will offer lots of sturdy homes for the ants. We already made lots of setup with rock nest in the past, but if you wanna know how they work, and a step-by-step guide on making one, You can check this video on the iCard and on their description. Anyway, we have this special rock here who will sit on the front row. It's special as we collected it from our previous trip. I can't help it as this rock is lovely, and full of green moss on top. It just looked like this now as we sterilized it and sun-dried for a month, to eliminate pest and parasites that might be hitching a ride to the rock. Don't worry, you'll see those mosses turn green again, once we hydrate it later, along with the plants. We also place additional rocks under the falls to secure it. Now it's time to add some plants. Our first choice for the plant buddies was ferns. But a typhoon delayed the delivery of my order, and they melted along the way. So we end up using this variety of nerve plants. And this miniature oak leaf figure. We just planted them around the terrarium. Then gave them a nice watering. And as I've expected, the moss on the rock turns green again. This rock had an even thicker moss originally, but we gathered it, so we can spread the greens around the terrarium faster. Especially on the waterfalls, making it look more natural. We just need to keep them moist, by misting using rainwater. So they'll stick to the rocks, and substrate much faster. Time to do a little aquascaping next. But anyways, I thought of using this waterfall filter at first, but decided to go for more natural looking using rocks. So we end up using this fountain pump. I forgot to show you buddies, but we installed this tubings earlier for the water flow to go up to the DIY filter above. We'll need an aqua soil first. I will just elevate a little at the back, to make the background plants higher. Then installed the pump. We tried to hide it using this rock, and this is the best we could do in this tiny little space. Then we started planting dwarf hair grass at the back. And some carpeting plant in the foreground. The fish I wanted to occupy this mini aquatic world, after it cycled was a native mini gourami, which I had experienced keeping as a kid back then, but to my surprise, I received a freebie from where I bought all those pumps, rocks, soil, and aquatic plants online. They're generous enough to give us a free red cherry shrimps, so even without a proper cycling, we just added an API quick start, to boost the colonization of beneficial bacteria. As I don't have another place to put these cute little shrimps for now, we just let them acclimate for several minutes. And let them go. I just hope they'll do good on here. And for all of them to turn bright red as this one, I don't know if they just molted on the way, but the rest are much lighter in color. But all in all, it's so great to finally see life in there. Anyway, we're just yet to add the stars of this new terrarium. I'm talking about this young 2 colonies of Anoscitus, or those mini trap-jaw ants. The colony we're moving today had around 6 workers, while the other one had only 3, and one of those 3 workers is a newly hatched. Look at how white she is. So, they'll be joining in the terrarium a little bit later. For now, let's move the colony with more workers. Just look at how shy cryptic ants are, out in the open. It takes them more than 6 hours, to finally send a worker to venture out of their test tube. We have another one there, but still too shy to follow up. The main reason why we're moving them this early buddies is for easier maintenance. As with them living here, we won't need to feed them, or even clean their food leftovers anymore. As these guys here, springtails will take care of it for us. They will serve as food for the ant colony. Speaking of it, this worker came back quick with a springtail catched for dinner. Just in time while I'm trying to explain. Nothing is more wonderful for an ant keeper than having a self-sustaining ant farm. It's just my favorite thing in the hobby. Anyway, I forgot to tell you earlier, buddies, but we added a colony of springtails after planting the terrarium. So we already have lots of them here, and these guys will also serve as the janitors, as they will maintain the cleanliness here in the terrarium. They will consume molds, ants waste, and any decaying organic matter. They're all what we need to keep the cycle going, as their poops will serve as fertilizers to the plants. All the resources and moisture they need are here on the terrarium. And these critters reproduce so fast. So I'm sure we'll never run out of food for our pet ant colony here. Anyway, this very next scene, buddies, made me so proud. As we caught it on camera, how our pet ant snap its prey, using its ultra-fast mandibles. Like BAM. But at the same time, this scene also made me so nervous while editing. As I thought there was a parasitic mite on one of the worker mandibles. Oh my. Just right there. I went a couple of times, smashing that replay button. And it turns out that the mite-like thing is not present before the ants snap its jaws, and just appeared after the worker drop its prey. Turns out it's just a fluid or juice from the springtail's body that gush out after the snap. That's a huge relief, buddies, as mite infestation would be unsightly and heartbreaking for every keepers. And much worse, deadly for the colony. After that big scene, the ants enjoyed their first day here, doing exploration and hunting. And no signs of them moving yet. The next morning, I tried waking up early so we can film the colony's migration, as it might happen today. But turns out the ants did it earlier, as the migration is already ongoing. We've seen them moving different brood stages, such eggs, larvae, and cocoons. Sadly, we didn't make it in time to see the queen, as this species, buddies, like most ponarines, the queen won't march on its own to the new nest, as the workers will be carrying her. Like what they're doing on this young worker here, who's still so light in color. But even if we didn't witness the start of the move, at least we made it here before it ends. This way we figured out where's the new nest is. And it's here, just under the mossy rock that we collected on our recent queen ant hunting trip. This colony is also catched from the trip, so they might be feeling at home under the special rock. Just saying. And this is it for this episode, buddies. Stay tuned for their future life updates, living on this terrarium. As aside from the second colony of Anochetis, I'm also thinking of adding another cryptic ant species here, which is the Calyptomimix that we also caught from the trip. And before we end the video, let me give a shout out to our good buddy, Ant Nation. Hope we can support and give him a visit on his new channel. We'll really appreciate the effort. I just hope you have learned something from this video, guys. Be a genie for the first time by granting my wish and tapping the like and share button. That would help a lot. This is D Colony, saying goodbye for now, but hoping to see you on my next videos.